Ooh, hey, Jimbo, you ready for this deal?
Pull your hat down, Cody.
I like that one.
Old stories like long lost friends, rodeos and late night bends, history before our time, round pens and pasture rides, cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, friends and neighbors. Time once again for the Cowboys of the Osage podcast with your host, Jimbo Snively and Cody Garnett. Now let's sing a little bit about it. Cowboys of the Osage, riding once again. Always got some time for a friend. And here they are, the Cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys of the Osage podcast, brought to you by the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum, the Buck and Flamingo Turquoise Shop, both located in historic downtown Pawhuska, Oklahoma. Hey, we even picked up another new sponsor, Shorty's Cowboy Hattery. Look them up online, get you a custom-made hat right from the famous Shorty's Cowboy
Well, they got
Hattery.
some nice hats. Those are nice hats.
They do. I'm getting me one of them minks, I think.
A mink.
A mink.
You look like you ought to be wearing a mink hat with a buffalo coat.
Hey, it's old Cody over here, and as always, I have my main man with me, Mr. Rodeo historian himself, quite the songwriter. We're going to have to get him to play a song for us one of these days. He started playing the guitar, too. He played a few chords for me last night on the phone. Jimbo Snively. Morning, Jimbo. Good to see you. Who are we talking to today?
Hey, Cody, boy, it's a great day in the Osage, man. And, Cody, we've got Jess McGinley with us today. And Jess's dad is Terry McGinley. And Terry was a multi-NFL steer roping qualifier, national finals. And he actually won the steer roping finals 2 years in a row, 1980 and 81. I don't know how many times that's ever been done.
You know, he's one of the best ropers to come out of that northern country as far as
sure.
steer roping to compete with these guys down here.
Yeah,
That ever come around the pike, Jimbo.
He made those Okies look at their whole card.
Yeah, that don't happen very often.
I know.
That don't happen very often to us Okies down here.
But anyway, Jess is his son, and Jess grew up around all those great ropers and got a bunch of stories, and he was a good roper himself and horse trainer and all that, and he's going to share some of those great old stories with us.
Hey, before you bring Jess on, Jimbo, I forgot to tell everybody, you may be noticing a slight change in our schedule of podcast. Instead of every Thursday, Jimbo and I are now putting them out the first and third Thursday of every month. So look forward to new episodes the first and third Thursday of every month. Sorry about that, Jimbo. I had to get it in.
Well, I was supposed to tell it, and I forgot. But anyway, Jess, welcome to the Cowboys of the Osage podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad to have
By
you.
golly.
Man, I remember your dad well. Where'd you grow up at, Jess?
I grew up right there in Ogallala. Well, actually just north and east of Ogallala, a little town called Keystone, Nebraska. And we had a ranch out there. So that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
Pretty good cowboy country out there.
Yeah, that is cowboy
Ogallala.
country.
That's what I think about
Oh, yes, sir.
that part of the world. The western part of Nebraska is cowboys, and the eastern part of Nebraska is horse racers. I don't know.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, tell us about your dad. Where did he grow up, and how did he get started?
Well, he grew up right there in Keystone. Our family ranch has been there for a lot of years, and he grew up there. And I don't know, right out of college, he said he never did rope when he was, young. He said, I didn't even whirl a rope till I was kind of right out of college. And he said, I rode bareback horses. And he said, but I'd watched all them steer ropers. And he said, man, I wanted to learn how to rope steers. And so he got to knowing John Dalton. And so John, he went up there and stayed with him and, just learned the fundamentals of it. John, he taught him how to log a horse and, just all the basics of steer roping. Sure. And that's kind of how he got started. And he worked hard at it and went on to be pretty successful with it.
Hey, Jess, we got a lot of people that listen to our podcast that, they're not steer roping aficionados. You just mentioned something there that a lot of people don't even know what it is. What is logging a horse, real quick, so they can put a little context to what you said?
The way my dad always told me, he said, them logging, it does a lot of things for a horse. It gets them, their old bodies get hard and get toughened up, and it's good for their minds. It takes all the edge off of them, and it just teaches them how to handle that weight.
Yeah,
and so there's an art to that steer. There's an art to that logging them horses.
So for everybody who don't know what a log is, a lot of times it's a 3-piece log system. There's a front log that represents a steer's head. There's a second log that'll represent your first jerk when you're tripping a steer, and then there'll be a third log back there that represents the second jerk when you're tripping a steer.
That's right.
And it's supposed to simulate an actual steer rope and run, and it gets your horse when you step off of him and you go down to the logs and you tell him whoa, it gets him doing that. And before that, I guess you need to drive them kind of like a workhorse.
Yeah.
To get
That's exactly right. You teach them how to drive and stuff like that. You're right.
Teach them their commands, teach them what you want to do, teach them that there's going to be something behind them, and then you move on to the logs. And it basically simulates a steer rope and run, and it does get your horse in awful good shape, too, if you grew up like I did right on the Arkansas River foot of sand in your log.
Your dad,
there's go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say your dad was known for his expertise with the horses. Where'd that come from? I mean, maybe not necessarily steer horses, but just horses in general.
I don't really know. I guess it's just something that was kind of in his blood. I know Lowell Farrell over there south of Ogallala in Imperial, Nebraska. He was a heck of a horseman, and Dad spent a lot of time with Lowell. But I guess he just kind of, learned a lot of it on his own. He had a lot of feel, and, that feel is just, it's not something you can teach. It's just something you're born with. And so he just had a lot of feel, a lot of common sense with the horse, I think, more than anything.
What gave him the idea to start that Ogallala jackpot steer roping?
I don't really know, to be honest. Somehow him and a friend of his, they decided to have a steer roping, and they wanted to do it right before Cheyenne, because a lot of those southern ropers were already going to be up here. We're going to Cheyenne. And so it wasn't but 150 miles over there to Cheyenne, so it was convenient. And he had it the Sunday before Cheyenne started. Cheyenne was starting on a Monday back in those days. And so I don't know exactly how it all got started, but I think he had that steer open for over 20 years, I know.
What was so great about that steer roping up there, Jimbo? Was it a big one?
Yeah, it was a big one, and like he said, all the Okies and stuff came. All the world champions.
All the top guys were there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. There have been more world champions come through that Ogallala arena than you can count. That was the beauty to it. It just happened to work out that way, just because of Cheyenne, basically. So.
Until recently, they always had bigger steers up in that country too, Jimbo. And and I always asked them, I said, why are the steers so big up here every year? Which it didn't bother me, big ones, little ones, short ones, fat ones, skinny ones, black ones, anyone. I didn't care. But they said it was it helped even up the odds a little bit for some of these guys that came from down here to up there, because they weren't used to a bigger steer.
Yeah.
Well, that could have been.
I don't know.
I'm not sure on that, but.
That's just a conspiracy theory that all us Southern ropers came up with one time.
Right.
Yeah, all them fellas down there in y'all's country, they were always up there that roping. All them Okies came up there that were, they were always damn sure there. And I've showed them pictures to Jimbo and them posters and all the guys that used to come up. So, there was a lot of good hands come through there for sure.
What do you remember about some of those old steer ropers, Jess?
Man, they just, there were a lot of them that were a little before my time. I don't know. I don't know exactly what, they were just good cowboys. I always remember that. And they were gentlemen. That was a gentleman's event back then. And, So they were all top hands for sure.
Yeah, and they all got along and helped each other, and just,
Yes, sir.
Just a good group of men, weren't they?
Oh, yes, sir, for sure. Yeah, they were professional men by all means.
Did your dad ever win his own jackpot?
No, sir. No, he never won it.
Who were some of the guys that did win it? You sent me some pictures. Olin.
Oh, shoot. Sonny Davis won it a couple times. Sonny Wright. Shaw won it. Clark McIntyre won it 2 or 3 times. Pake won it 1 year. Jimmy Brazil won it 1 year.
Must have been a big arena for those two left.
Oh, it was a real big arena. Yeah, it was a real big arena. Yeah, it was a real big arena there. Yeah, Shaw, he won it. Man, I can't think of all of them that won it, but there was damn sure some tough hands. Harry Lynn won it 1 year.
Yeah.
He's from down there in y'all's country.
A lot of guys larger than life right there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
You mentioned Sonny Wright. He was quite a character, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. That's what my dad said. I didn't know Sonny personally, so he was a little before my time, but yeah, he said he was.
Cody, he wore big high top black boots tucked in. I mean, all the way to his knee almost.
Oh, yeah.
Black hat and handkerchief and just wild. He's that one I've got that picture of getting his horse jerked so bad. Remember when that latigo sticking straight out from the jerk?
Yeah, he was. I think wasn't he kind of out there from my dad's country?
Yeah, he's from New Mexico.
I've heard a lot of. Lori Primrose told us a lot of stories on Sonny Wright. That was our favorite steer roper. My dad said he actually let Sonny Wright ride his horse before.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there towards the end of his career.
But I remember him being pretty wild. He swung his rope way on the side,
Old timer
style.
Yeah,
I think he did. And kind of like Don McLaughlin did. I think they kind of had that side swing, but and they damn sure knew how to fold them horns together. I can tell you that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they cracked that whip.
Yeah. Well, you probably, being up there, you probably grew up around Cheyenne too, didn't you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I was raised in that arena there at Cheyenne. We went there every year for forever. We all grew up there. So, yeah, that was quite a summer right there. All the people we got to know and meet over the years. So,
I still remember when they had wooden grandstands on the contestant side, Jimbo, playing underneath the mirrors with all the other ropers' kids.
Yeah, I remember that too. It sure changed.
That's right.
We got into some good dummy ropings under there, and one kid that we were playing with one day, we kept making him these mud pops to drink, and we sure got in trouble from his mom and dad later on that day.
That's great.
Larry Dugan. We'd all be warming up our dad's horses and stuff, and Larry Dugan, he's an old steer roper, and his wife's a rodeo secretary to this day. And he'd give all us kids, he'd carry around a big pocket full of dumb suckers. And I'm like, what are he's always giving these kids dumb suckers? Well, he told me later in life that he'd give one of those kids dumb suckers, and they'd get that sticky stuff all over their dad's saddle and rope and everything. I just thought it was funny.
That's funny right there.
You mentioned John Dalton. Yeah. John Dalton and his wife, they didn't live too far from Cheyenne, didn't they?
Well, my dad told me, no, they didn't. My dad told me actually when he started roping steers, John Dalton, they lived in Guernsey in those days.
Okay.
And so Dad would go up there to Guernsey and stay with him. He might even go for a month and stay, and he roped with him and stuff. And yeah, he was a big inspiration for my dad for sure. He actually was my dad's best man in his wedding too.
Right, and his wife Ramona. She roped steers.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some film on Facebook. You see it every once in a while up there she doing a exhibition roping a steer, one of those old big steers.
Yeah.
On her dad.
Dad told me.
She didn't wear one of them buckskin skirts, did she?
No.
Oh, dang it.
No, I don't think that. But Dad told me, he said right there at the King Marriott, he said in the old days, he said Ramona in between go rounds, he said Ramona, she'd roll up there and stick it on one, and sure enough, set the run up right too. He said she damn sure did it right. She wasn't just, it wasn't just half-assed. It was sure enough set the run up.
Cody, she was King Merritt's daughter.
That's right. That was John's wife.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he said at the same time, then she'd be over there at the racetrack, jockeying them horses over there.
Yeah, she was a great jockey. wasn't she?
Yeah. He told me one time, Morris Lake Talk had a black horse they called Baldy. And Ramona used to run that horse over there at the track. And I guess none of them could outrun him. And I've actually even got a picture of that horse. Yeah. But no, she was a hell of a hand. You know, that family, all of them, they were damn sure talented. And Dad said John was very athletic. He said, hell, Jess, he said up there at Douglas, that North Platte River run through that fairgrounds, you know. And he said that John would go up there to the north end of that fairgrounds, and he would jump, you know, he would get in the water in that North Platte River. And that thing runs deep and it runs fast, what I remembered. And he said he'd jump in that river and he'd swim back and forth across it all the way down through the fairgrounds, around through the show barns and cattle used to be. And he'd go all the way to the south end of that fairgrounds. A lot of times they'd be camped at that end. And he said he'd swim back and forth and he'd get down there to about where his camp was and he'd get out. I'm like, man, that takes an excellent athlete to swim across that river.
I'd have went right to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said I'd have went right to the bottom of it. I can't even.
Yeah,
swim.
Absolutely. Yeah, he just, Dad said it wasn't nothing to him. Then he said, hell, he said he used to get on them high dives at their swimming pools. He put a pair of bib overalls on. And he said he could do double flips, double back flips, high, you know, just gainers and everything off that high board. Like, and Dad said, why do you wear those bib overalls? He said, well, in case I hit that water wrong, it don't sting quite as bad when you hit. So that's why I always had them bib overalls on.
Wasn't he known as a pretty tough guy, Jimbo?
He's like the Woodrow Call of rodeo. He didn't put up with. He hated rude behavior in a man and wouldn't tolerate it.
I think he was tougher than woodpecker lips. Is what I'm thinking. Yeah,
I know a couple steer ropers who probably wouldn't like going down the road right now. Probably.
No, he wouldn't. Yeah, he sure enough wouldn't tolerate all that, would he?
No, he sure wouldn't. He was a great all-around hand. He could bulldog, calves, rope steer. Made the finals several times steer roping and finished second in the world one year, 1960, I think, just pretty close, right behind Don McLaughlin. He was a good hand. He won all around at Pendleton, I think, twice, maybe, didn't he? Jess?
I think he did. Yeah, I think he did.
He's in the Pendleton Hall of Fame.
About all he had to do to win anything was just show up. He was going to win something. But, we got a lot of respect for that family. And, you know, all them Daltons and Merritts, they were all great folks. They just were good people.
Right.
So we always enjoyed seeing them. And
Hyde's the one that took the steer roping finals, you know, and when it was about to go away, and he moved it up there to Laramie, and it stayed there a long time till, I guess, his death, and then it moved to Ed Gaylord's.
My dad went to the finals there in Laramie, I think, the first one or two times he ever made it.
Yeah.
In fact, I just sent you, Jimbo, a picture of your dad and my dad at all the contestants that one year. I think it was 81, and your dad's in that picture.
Yeah.
Jimbo,
did you show that to Cody?
No, I haven't yet.
Jimbo?
No, I haven't yet. I will.
I saw it on the internet yesterday. It was a good picture. I blew it up. And,
it's a real good picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, your dad was in there that year. I remember your mom and dad well. They used to come up there to Ogallala. I knew them. Well, you were real young. You were just young. And they used to come to all them Wyoming steer roping, so I'd see them. And, boy, I'll tell you what your dad was. He was a hell of a hand, too, boy. He could do it.
Well, appreciate it.
Good horseman. Yes, sir. And I mean it when I say it, too. He was a good horseman, and he did it all right. So always enjoyed watching him rope.
Another roper I remember from up there, of course, he was a little before your time, but was Glenn Nutter. Did you ever know him?
Oh, yes, sir. Real well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good man.
Well, he was.
Yeah,
he
won
that.
Guy. He won Terry's. Yes, he was. He won that steer roping there at Ogallala a couple times.
Yeah.
He sure did.
He won the national finals here, Cody and Pawhuska, one year.
That's right. He did. He dang sure did.
But just a super nice guy. That's what I remember about him.
He was.
A nice gentleman he was.
You were telling me your grandpa was telling you a story about the first time he made the finals in Laramie, about the cattle they use.
That wasn't Laramie. That wasn't the finals. That was a jackpot.
Oh, okay.
57 when they couldn't get cattle across the border, and they brought in some cattle from Hollywood. that they'd used in the movies for years and years and years. And they were so big, and they had to cut the horns off of them, a bunch of 6 or 8 inches off each horn just to get them through the chute. And that was 1957. That was, as Jim said, those are the biggest cattle he ever roped.
Did it snow there that year, and they piled the snow up in the corner?
That was the finals
Okay.
at Laramie. That was 1961.
Okay.
And they piled the snow up and piled it up in front of the bucking chute. Joe said they had just a big old pile of snow right there at the bucking chute. And it was
I remember Dad telling me I wasn't there that year, but he said one year there at Laramie with the King Merit, I'm assuming, and he said it was beautiful like that Saturday, and he said Sunday morning we woke up and it was snowing.
Yeah.
He said it had changed through the night. He said it was cold. Nobody had a heavy coat. He said it was pretty wild that next day.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures of that. Everybody's bundled up pretty good.
Yeah.
For sure.
But
I bet that ground was hard.
Might have been. I don't know. But Joe said they did.
I'm sure it was.
They just piled it up in front of the bucking chute. So I don't. Then the next year they moved it to Douglas, Wyoming.
oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they had it, 1962. They had it at Douglas, Wyoming. Everett Shaw won the average.
Well,
I'll be darned.
In Laramie, when they had it a few years, didn't they take 16 to the national finals because they ran it like pari-mutuel horse races, and they had 2 heats of 8 that you could bet on.
I don't remember that. Maybe they did. They may have taken 16. They may have.
They took 16 to the finals in Laramie a few times just to
That
so they
sounds
could have
right.
two even pari-mutuel races in the steer rope.
Yeah, that sounds maybe right for sure. Then they always had an alternate. That's how Dad got in it the first year in 1980. He was actually in Pendleton, and he had his good horse up there, and they called, and James Allen had broke his leg. And so they called Terry because he was the alternate that year. So I brought a horse up there from him from the ranch and drove him to Laramie, and Dad flew from Pendleton back to Laramie and rode this little old practice horse that he had. And I'll be damned if he didn't win the 10 steer average on him. So that's how that was the first time he won it. That was 1980. Sure was.
Another top roper I remember from up there was Eddie Becker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Eddie rode good. He sure did.
He won the finals.
He won the finals one year. Yes, he did.
73, I think it was. I believe.
Yeah, I remember him winning it.
Yeah.
Was that in Pecos?
Yeah,
No, that was at Laramie.
No, it was at Laramie.
73?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 70. The first year they left Pahusky, it went to Laramie.
Gotcha.
Pecos was 68, 69 to 70, I think, Cody. Then they moved to Pahusky 71, 72.
There we go. I knew you'd keep it straight, Jimbo.
Well, maybe. But
Yeah.
another guy that was a great friend to our family, Jess, was, and you might have known him, was Carl Sawyer from Torrington.
Yes. He was a little before my time, but yes, I do remember Carl. Yeah, I do. And I remember he had that big trucking company there.
Yeah.
And yes, he was a nice man. I wished I'd have known him better, but I was just a little too young.
Yeah.
But Dad and him were very good friends. I know that.
Yeah. You
I
said
remember we was always impressed every time we drove by there. He'd always have them big black trucks parked there, and hell, there'd be 8 or 10 of them in a row just lined up there. And he had a real pretty place there.
Yeah, I bet he. I never did see his place. He used to come stay with us a lot, but I never was.
Yeah, it was really nice. It was right on the highway there, and it was all white board fence, and it was a real pretty place.
Yeah.
But
you used to tell me
Yeah, I
some
just
story
didn't know
about
Carl.
him and the trucking company or something. What was that?
oh, Dad was telling me one time that John Dalton had told him that one of those truck drivers come in there. Of course, they kind of touch base, in the evenings there when they come in. Carl kind of asked them how everything went. And one of those truckers come in there, and he said, "How's everything?" He said, "Everything was all right." He said that truck's running hot. He said Carl was busy. He said, whatever. He wasn't paying much attention to him. So 2 or 3 days goes by again, and same thing. The old boy said, "Yeah, everything's all right. But dang, Mr. Carl, that damn truck's running hot." Well, after 3 or 4 days of listening to it, finally he told him, he said, "Look," he said, "take that truck to Denver and get it fixed, whatever it needs. I'm tired of hearing it. I'm busy." So I guess so. Boy, he takes that truck to Denver and he puts a brand new air conditioner in it. That truck is running hot.
It's hot in that cab.
I guess so far when he got that bill on that, I guess his head nearly popped off his shoulders. He was so mad. Oh boy, went and got a new air conditioner.
Yeah, that's what he meant by bit running hot.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't make that up.
No.
Yeah, said Dalton told him that story. I laughed. But there's a lot of characters back in those days, too. I just love them old stories, because them guys are funny. But everything usually always happened exactly how they told it, too, though.
Oh, yeah.
They couldn't do that shit in today's world. You couldn't even do that stuff.
No.
I knew an old character from that country. Do you remember old Kennard Wyndham? Yeah,
I do remember Kennard. I do, a little bit. I didn't know him real good, but yeah, I do remember him.
We were staying with him one time. He bought and sold ranches, it seemed like, in my mind.
He did.
Pretty good sized
so.
ones. And we were staying with him
he
one
had more
time.
money than Lloyd's of London.
And they sell fireworks year round up there in Cheyenne at a deal. And he stopped and bought $500 worth of firecrackers. We got to his house and he cranks up his fire pit. And he throws all $500 worth of firecrackers in at the same time, Jimbo. I've never seen anything like it.
Pop, 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 pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Sounded like a Gatling gun going off.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it sounded like he was in Ukraine. Yeah, those guys are characters back then for sure.
I'm sure you knew
Yeah, for sure.
Waldo Haythorn, all that bunch.
Oh boy, did I know Waldo. Oh, he was my favorite. I got plenty of Waldo stories. Waldo, Ike used to come up there. Ike Rude used to come up there at Waldo's, and he'd stay with him in the summertime.
Yeah.
And Dad was telling me there one morning, I guess it was over at the cookhouse, drinking coffee about 5:30 one morning, and they're sitting there, and Waldo tells Ike, he says, Ike, what do you say we rope a little bit this morning? I said, hell, Waldo, I think that'd be a great idea. Waldo says, I'll tell you what I'll do. He says, I'll turn them out for you till you miss, and then you can turn them out for me. I said, that'd be fine. He said 3 or 4 days later, Waldo was still working the chute.
I bet.
Yeah. He's there a week later.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I always thought that was pretty funny. But
Yeah.
So why he didn't miss.
Yeah.
He didn't miss many.
Right. Well, I heard a similar story, something like that, from way on back when he was match roping against Will Rogers, roping goats. And back then, you just hold the goats. One person would hold them. They didn't run them through a chute. You just hold them and turn them loose. And they had $20 bet on. This was when $20 was worth quite a bit of money. And Will Rogers went first, and he missed a goat out of 10, something like that. And he just went over there and went to getting on his horse, and he paid. Ike come over there to him and said, aren't you going to hold goats for me? And he said, he just handed Ike the $20 bill and said, you're not going to miss, and I'm not going to hold goats for $20. So,
ain't no need to hold you up today.
Right. But he was quite a character.
Right there.
Probably nobody ever roped more cattle than Ike Rude. I mean, if he didn't rope them in the practice pen, he roped them at the pasture where he worked. He was going to rope.
They said one year, Dad told me one year they was out there at Pendleton and Ike and Waldo, and I'm not sure if Howard, they rode the same horse or not. Don't hold me on this story completely, but the best I knew is they got up there and Waldo's horse had gotten crippled or something. And so Roy Barnes had an old yellow horse. Craig was actually telling me this. And anyway, I guess Ike rode him first. And I guess Ike, he come rolling down that hill there at Pendleton, and he blows up there, and he's kind of getting in striking range, and that horse cold jaws him and just runs off downstream. He just cold jaws him and goes to the other end of the arena. He's like, wow, he never even throwed his rope, he said. Well, the next day, I guess Waldo was up that afternoon, and he said it was full of people. And he said Waldo, he got up on him, and he said he backed him up in there in the box, and he was just getting ready to nod. And little Ike, he just walks out in front of the box and said, whoa, 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 hold up. This stops the whole rodeo. And everybody's looking at him. And about that time, he walked up there to Waldo and reaches up and shakes his hand. He says, goodbye, Waldo. He says, by the time you get that yellow son bitch pulled up, he said, you'll be back in Ogallala, Nebraska. Yeah. That's what I was standing right there when it happened. Yeah. He knew that wasn't going to work. But that Ike was funny. Dad said one year there at Wyoming State Fair, he said, hell, Jess, he said, all I had to do was tie my last steer down to win it. And he said, I missed both loops. He said, I couldn't believe it. He said, I went back to the trailer, and he said, your mom was there. And he said, I told her to get her butt in the car. He said, we're going home. And he was unsaddling his horse and throwing his tack in the nose of that Greenwald trailer. And he said, little Ike walked up there and started walking around Dad's trailer while he was unsaddling his horse and kind of looking at it and looking at his tires and looking around there. And finally walked over there to Dad. He said, hell, Terry, he said, it isn't no wonder you didn't win anything. He said, why is that, Ike? He said, well, you used all your luck getting here. Dad said those tires looked like onion skins. He said they didn't have no tread on them. Yeah, he said, well, you used all your luck getting here, Terry.
Yeah.
I can relate to that one, Jimbo.
Yeah. They call them old tires.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Casings.
But
my grandpa always called them casings instead of tires. And they were sorry.
He said when he said they were looked like onion skins, God dang, I laughed.
I forget who it was traveling with Ike one time, and they had a flat. And they pulled off the side of the road and that guy got the tire out and went jacking the car up, and he kept hearing something. He looked over there, and Ike was roping a weed in the ditch. He said, Ike, get over here and help me change this tire. You know, he's gonna rope.
He said he roped too good to be changing tires.
Right. Well, he was something else. I remember watching him rope a steer at Cheyenne when he was like 72 years old or something.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
1968.
Wow.
Roped him right across the line. Oh, you know how the old steers wait on you sometimes. Just roped him across the line, and the crowd just went crazy, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But then he couldn't get off his horse. You know, he's short and old too, you know, and he had trouble getting off his horse and had trouble handling the leg, and he was like 32, but the crowd still just went crazy, you know. It was just, I'm glad I got to see that. I never will forget it.
Yeah, that's pretty neat right there. But, you know, we was talking about Waldo one time, and I was just a kid. One of my best friends up there, Arthur, Brad Wilson, and we'd go over there and help Waldo. He loved us boys. We were probably 12, maybe 13, somewhere in that area. We had some good little horses. They were just little big horses, but they were stout, and they were good little horses. Well, Waldo wanted to move some pairs. And so we was helping him and stuff. So we moved these pairs and stuff. When we get done, we're riding back home, and we cut through this neighbor's pasture, and it was the sheriff. His name was Jim Bolin. He was the sheriff there in Arthur, and he had a lease pasture there or something. We're coming through it, cutting across there, and we come down, cut off this hill, and there's a windmill down there. So we stopped and watered our horses and stuff. And there's 4 or 5 old cows laying over there just sunning, you know, around them tanks. And we're sitting there, and pretty soon Waldo said, "Hey, boy," I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "That cow there's kind of looking funny at me." He said, "Why don't you boys go ahead and decorate her a little bit?" Of course, we're like blue eater dogs. We just attack. We're chasing her around there, getting the edge off of her because she's running. And finally, we got up there and we roped her and stretched her out. Well, about that time, here comes a little Jeep over the hill coming down there to the windmill. And this cow, she's just barely getting to her feet because we done choked her out. She's just barely getting to her feet. And we look up and we realize it's the sheriff. He drives by us, boys, and he cuts in my eyes, and we're like, oh, God dang. We could tell he was hot. So we just kind of sat there, and he pulls up there the windmill where Waldo was sitting, and he gets out, and he says, "Waldo," He said, that's bullshit right there. He said, how would you like it if I come over there to your house and rope your kid off? Well, I said, I don't give a shit. He said, I don't give a shit. He said, I'll bet you can't catch one. To the sheriff.
Yeah.
I thought, God damn, you going to shoot him or something. Yeah, I said, I don't give a shit. Bet you can't catch one. Yeah, we just little old kids. God dang, we laughed. Later, we laughed.
Yeah.
We weren't laughing much at the time, but no, that Haythorn family, that's a great family. They're like my second family, and Craig and Jody and them boys up there, Cord and Sage. Great folks, great folks. You know, I just lived across the road from them, so I grew up with them.
They still use those workhorses to feed in the wintertime?
You know, I don't think they use as many anymore as them boys have taken over that ranch. You know, Cord and Sage, they've kind of, you know, those kind of running things now, I think. But I think they still have some around there. But I really don't know that, to be honest. But I don't think they use them much if they do. So
that just looked like too much work to get them saddled, you know, their harness on and stuff to me. But
yeah, it didn't bother Craig. You know, hell, he loved that work anyway. That was his specialty.
Didn't they put up their hay and everything with workhorses?
Yeah, they
Oh, absolutely. Damn right.
They were doing it just not very long ago.
Well, I always heard Waldo or somebody said that when these four-wheel drive trucks and stuff first started coming out and getting real popular, I don't know if it was the late 60s or when, but all the ranches up there switched over to trucks and got rid of their workhorses, and Haythorns didn't. And they just happened to have a real bad winter that winter, and those feed trucks couldn't go, and Haythorns could still feed their cattle, you know, because they'd kept those horses.
Yeah, for sure. You know, you think about going out there in that sub-zero weather up there in the winter, and hell, it's cold enough being on a tractor going in there and picking up a bale of hay or a stack of hay, or right along going over there and cabling on a stack of hay.
Yeah.
You know, and then go feed it all morning in that sub-zero weather. Tell you what, you're a pretty tough hand to do all that. And they did it like it was nothing.
Right.
They didn't even change a look on their face. And them horses with Craig's were so broke. I remember that. I mean, he didn't ever pick up the lines on them. He just talked to them, and yeah, it was unbelievable how broke he had them. So
they got a heck of a horse breeding operation there too. To this day, I think goes back to all the old foundation bloodlines.
Yeah, I think they still breed quite a few horses. You know, I think they've cut back. You know, some, but yeah.
I saw a few years ago, just not very long ago, they won the AQHA Remuda of the Year. So
yeah,
they had the best herd of horses. According to the AQHA.
Craig won the gold. Yeah, Craig won the Golden Spur Award. And
they won that rodeo
honor
down at Fort Worth too, ranch rodeo here a year or two ago, didn't they, Cody?
Yeah, they have. They won Abilene there at the Western Heritage several times. They sure have.
They're a tough group of guys, and they raise awful good horses. And you got to tip your hat to them to keep that ranch in the same family going on for all these 100 years or whatever it's been. I mean, there's not very many families that they're still on the same home place doing the same thing that their great grandfathers did. Most of nowadays they're getting it and they're selling a big part of it off, and
that's right.
And it's not staying in the family. So you really got to tip your hat to that family for staying in to their roots.
Yes, for sure.
All these years.
You gotta be tough.
Yeah, that's great.
You got to be a tough booger because it gets hot as hell in the summer and cold as hell in the winter.
It does.
Yeah. Well, the hottest I ever was I was in North Platte over there doing something at a feed yard one time. I was like, geez, Louise, it's hot up here.
North Platte. I remember as a kid driving to Cheyenne, that's where you change your clock at North Platte.
Yeah. Yep.
Remember that?
Yeah, that's right. You do.
I was like, it's an hour earlier here. How's that an hour earlier here, Dad? Well, just because when you cross this line, son, it gets an hour earlier.
Right.
Yeah, that Craig, he wasn't no stooge by no means. In fact, he might be the greatest cowboy. Him and Brad Wilson, of anybody I know in the Western Hemisphere, without a doubt. I mean, he could do anything. And that Brad, the buddy I was telling you about when we went with Waldo, he's the same way.
Craig,
he could ride a pitch in the horse, just do anything.
He has only one big glaring problem to be the greatest cowboy in the world, and he still may be. He's left-handed.
Yeah.
Gosh dang, that really
Yeah,
hurts
I
you in the
never
steer
got
roping
his.
event.
Yeah, and it didn't. Yeah, a little bit, but hell, he won everything, and that it was kind of a handicap a little bit there. But oh boy, yeah, quite a cowboy.
You said something about training a horse for Phillips. What was it? What was that story?
Yeah, I've broken trained horses for the Phillip Ranch there for Johnny and Kathy Phillip and Shane and John Phillip. Their boys.
Now, where's that ranch at, Jess?
It's just outside of Huntsville, Texas.
Okay.
And it, I've trained lots of horses, broke a lot of colts, and they got a hell of a program there. And we have a big annual horse show every year. So we sell about 35 to 40 head of horses, and they're a nice set of horses too. We rope every day, and I don't know, they probably have close to 2,000 corny cows.
When is that horse sales for everybody that's listening? They might want to go down there and partake.
Well, yeah, it's the Phillip Ranch Horse Show. We have it every year. It's in 1st of September. And I think this is our 13th year this year. So it's been very successful for us. And
are a lot of those horses, you got them doing something by the time the sale comes around?
Oh, yeah.
Ranching good, roping on them a little bit?
They got different. Yeah, most of them are 4-year-old up. You'll have some that are just going nice, and then you got some that are finished, and a little of everything.
What's the breeding like on those horses?
They have some Shining Sparks. They got a King Bred stud, and they got a dual pep stud that's nice. One-time Pepto. So they've got some good mares, and just good producing mares. And they've been in the business for 40 years plus. So they put a good program together up there, and I sure ride a good. We don't ride any junk, that's for sure.
Sounds like they got some good old bloodlines down there.
Damn right they do. Yeah, they do, and you don't dread going out there in the morning and riding. That's for sure, because they're all nice horses to ride. So
well, everybody looking for a good horse, good using horse, good horse to do something with. Keep that in the back of your mind. The 1st of September, get down there to that horse sale that Jess helps out with at the Phillips Ranch or Phillip Ranch?
Yeah, Phillip Ranch. Yes, sir, Phillip Ranch.
Gosh, dang, you're down there by Huntsville. That's kind of cowboy country in that area down there.
Well, there's some. Yeah, I mean it is. There's a lot of calf ropers down there. Yeah, there he is. There's some.
Jason Evans still down in that country?
I don't ever see Jason. I think he lives somewhere down around there. I actually live in a little town called Brenham, Texas. I live about an hour from that ranch. So I just go back and forth. But, yeah, I haven't seen Jason in a while, but, yes, I do think he still does live around there.
When I think about Huntsville, Texas, I think about old Joe Beaver. He's right there in that
country.
Joe.
Yeah, I see Joe once in a while. Not a lot, but I do see him. I talk to him once in a while on the phone.
Isn't the prison down there, too?
They got a prison. They used to have a big prison rodeo. But you know what I think about most about Huntsville, Jimbo and Jess, is I was down there at the rodeo. It's been some years ago. Heck, I think it may have been the late 90s. That's how long ago it was. And they had the world's fastest steer rope in there. 24 on 3 head won it. I was 30. Wow. I was 32 on 3 head and didn't place. That's how fast it was.
You were in the way.
One or something?
Oh no! That place is set up to be rapidly fast. Yeah. It's the just the way that it's all set up and everything. It's just so fast. JB Watley, he was over 50 years old.
Yeah.
And averaged 8 on 3 steers. Ain't that something?
Wow. I just seen JB the other day. He actually come to the ranch. He come by there and looked at a couple horses. I don't know JB very good, but I know him a little bit.
You just tell me.
He knows a lot of them old re-ride stories too.
Well,
yeah, he does.
He likes to tell them old stories.
We called him Big Daddy when he was going up and down the road there at the last of his roping career.
Yeah, he was pretty big kid, wasn't he?
He's pretty good. Yeah, he's pretty good size guy.
Yeah, he's a big old boy.
Yeah,
fella.
Yeah. You used to tell me some Buddy Heaton stories one time.
Before you get going there, Jimbo, I got to tell Jess, Buddy Heaton was one of my, he was a babysitter of mine growing up. When he got out of prison, the last time he went to prison.
That's what's wrong with Cody, yes.
They allowed him to move into my grandparents' house with my grandparents instead of going to a halfway house. And he lived with my grandparents, and anytime that I needed to go anywhere, Buddy took me, and me and him just ran around together. And hell, I thought that that's how everybody was, you know.
Right.
I thought that's just how normal people were. They were just straight up outlaws, I guess, because that's who was hanging around the house. It seemed like.
That's funny right there. My dad told me the first time he ever seen him, they was down there at North Platte, the old arena, not where the new arena is, but the old one. It was just this side of the new arena. And Dad said it had rained all day long. And he said that night that arena was slopping mud and water standing in it. He said, I was down there in the bareback ride, and they was getting horses loaded. The bareback ride was first, of course. So Dad said about the third guy out, he said this horse jackknifed and just cooled him on that ground, just mucked it out of him. So they waved the ambulance in there. He said it was still kind of raining. He said they waved that ambulance in there, and those attendants got out, and they was loading this bareback rider up on the gurney. And he said about that time, Buddy Heaton jumps in this ambulance and turns on the lights and the sirens, and he floorboards it around that arena, comes down there in front of the rope and shoot. And Dad said back in those days, that grandstand sit right up there by the fence onto the ground. And Dad said he got in front of that main grandstand, and he goosed it through there, and he shot a rooster tail full of mud, and he just painted the whole front row of that grandstand with mud. He said people were going crazy. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. And finally, he skidded around there, went down by the strip and shoot. And so then he was going to come back there and, go ahead and let him load him up. And he said he kind of lost control of that ambulance and crashes it into the buck and shoot. And he said, I even think it may have killed one of the horses in there.
Oh, no.
He said, people, they didn't even know what to think or do. They were just dumbfounded. They said, God dang, are you kidding me? Everybody just, I mean, what would you do?
Yeah.
But when he told me he shot mud up into them grandstands and just painted those people with mud. Oh, I laughed.
Well, they got their money for it, I guess.
You said one year they was down there at McAllister. That's I was down there for the steer roping, and he said, them trustees, he said, we used to go down there, and them trustees, they could kind of go and they'd walk around the arena and stuff, and they'd help and do different stuff. But he said those old bad actors, he said they had them up in a cage behind the buck and shoots. And he said that's where all them sure enough gangsters were. And he said there all of a sudden there's people at the rodeo, and all of a sudden there was a bunch of commotion going on. Well, Buddy Heaton had jumped up on that cage where them prisoners were, and he had them baggy pants on. He jumps up on that cage and jumps off into that pit full of those prisoners. And when he does, he jerks out a sawed-off shotgun and goes to auctioning it off. Yeah. He said they just went to auction that shotgun off to those inmates. And he said, God dang. He said they had him thrown down on the ground, and he said, it was quite a spectacle. I said, you're making that up. He says, no, I'm not.
For everybody that don't know, down in McAllister, Oklahoma, that's where the Oklahoma State Penitentiary is.
Yeah, that's right.
Right up until the last few years, they may even brought it back in the last few years. They have a rodeo. It's a PRCA sanctioned rodeo where only they do the timed events, calf roping, barrel racing, bulldogging, and steer roping. And all the rest of the events, the convicts do. And it's actually in the prison, behind the prison walls, in a arena coliseum thing that's inside the prison. It reminds me of like a gladiator sport, really, when I used to go to it.
Yeah.
And they would bring, just like Jess said, there was a cage up in the corner. If you ever saw the movie Stir Crazy, where there's a cage in the corner that they throw all that money to the convicts at the end of it. It's just like that. And the trustees are walking around. You're actually inside the prison. That's where they have the rodeo. So It's really a one of a kind rodeo. If they're still having it, I highly
Talk about
encourage you.
bringing it back.
Highly encourage you to get down there and watch it.
Yeah.
I think Bobby Harris told me one time he was there. I think it was there. And he said that they took a number 2 wash tub and he said they put a midget in it. This number 2 wash tub.
They were still doing it just a few years ago.
Yeah, he said they filled it full of flour. And he said they strapped it on this bronc. And he said this bronc ran across that arena. And when he did, he hit the switch. And he said it launched that midget out of there. He said that midget did 2 Peter Pans in the air. He said it just splattered him. He said it looked like he did in a car crash. I said, wow.
The very first event right out of the box they would do at that rodeo is they turn out 2 longhorns, 2 buffaloes, 2 bulls, 2 bucking horses, 2 of everything they had for someone to get on and ride. And they had a whole bunch of bucking chutes there, maybe 15 bucking chutes across the front of that deal. And they turn them all out at the same time. And the last one to stay on their animal was the winner of that event. It's called the Mad Scramble.
That's great right there.
I remember as a kid going, and almost every year I went, it seemed like a bull got loose.
Oh, yeah. I saw there was a great pickup man. I forgot his name. A bull got loose up in the stands, went all the way up to where the concession stand was. They roped him, drug him back down all the concrete steps, and right back into the arena. Is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life, actually. I was just a kid.
It looked like it was part of the show.
Yes. Yeah. Well, people were scattering because that bull did run right up in the stands. And that deal is set up a lot like the Rome Coliseum. It's got a great big concrete wall all the way around it. You can't jump. You can't jump up into the stands, because it's too dang tall. Mm-hmm. So, like when they would turn that Money the Hard Way bull out, where they put $100 bill in a tobacco sack, tie it to a bull's horn. All the convicts would get out there, and whoever was brave enough to take it off the bull's horn got to keep it. So it was really something.
Yeah, they said they all like to get in that event because if they did get hurt, they'd get to go to the infirmary for a little bit. And
that's right.
Get a little relief.
That's right.
They'd all enter up.
They might not want to get hurt, but they sure run from that bull when he got after them. I do remember that.
Yeah, there were some of them braver than others. There's usually only like 1 or 2 brave ones on the deal.
Right. But that Buddy Heaton, he's just a mess, wasn't he?
He really was, Jimbo.
Oh, they said nothing he wouldn't do, they said.
The funniest story, or not the funniest, but when we did that Gary Parlay, that bull fighter, well, he said Buckler Graham broke him out and taught him the ropes kind of, and Buck Graham was telling him about Buddy Heaton. He said, now when Buckler Graham tells you somebody's crazy and tough, it gets your attention.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we did another podcast with a guy, old Jake Williams. Remember him not too long? Well, he's passed now. It was really a great podcast. J. Paul Williams and his dad, Jake.
Yeah.
And he told us a story when the very first time him and Bob Wegner was going to a rodeo, they were hitchhiking. Buddy Heaton picked him up, and the first time he stopped for gas, they got out right out of the car right there because they said it was the wildest ride of their life.
Yeah, they had enough of that.
He done all kind of stuff. One year at the Houston Astrodome, he was walking around all up in the top rafters there during the rodeo, Houston Astrodome, and he kept telling the whole crowd he was going to commit suicide and jump, and it went on for the whole rodeo, I guess, and then he had a dummy hit up there, and he threw it off the top. And a lady had a heart attack in the stands because she thought that she just witnessed a man commit suicide.
I think that was in Denver. Maybe.
Well, it could have been Denver.
That's probably usually did it more than once.
I thought I heard that similar story. I thought it was at Denver, though. But either way,
when he was babysitting me, he told me about it, and he told me it was at Houston, but his memory could have got.
Well, he may have done it more than once. Would be my guess.
Yeah. He was the wildest guy that I guess I ever knew, but when I was a kid, I just took it for granted. That's just how people were, people that we knew anyway that were a lot like Buddy Heaton.
Wow.
Yeah, daggone, that's funny.
You was telling me, Jess, you actually lived up here at Pahuska for a while, didn't you? Or near Pahuska?
Yes, sir. I was up there for a little bit. I wished I'd known you guys back then.
Yeah.
When we hung out with you.
Yeah. But Jess, if you You was asking me about Justin Patterson and Mark Spencer. I haven't seen Mark in quite a while. We see Justin every once in a while.
We did a podcast with Justin, and one of our first 20 podcasts that we did,
Right.
was with Justin.
Yeah.
And, what a lot of people don't realize about that wild man is his dad was a great roper, made the national finals. And, a lot of people don't even know around here that most people don't. Justin's a world champion Indian team roper, won the Indian World Championship.
Yeah, I could see that. Justin could rope. He was tough.
And it was a great podcast we did. He told us all about him and Joel Maker growing up and some of the shenanigans they got in.
Yeah, we were buddies. And I know Mark. I always liked Mark a lot, too. He was.
Yeah, I knew Mark, too. He was a good friend of mine. One time, my dad left me here with Mark and his wife, Lynn, and I was going to ride.
She's the one that used to trip steers.
Oh, yeah.
Are they still married?
They're not married anymore. No, sir. But
I remember them trip steers.
I was going to ride to Pecos with them because they have a bunch of big jackpots down in Monahans before Pecos they used to.
Right.
And I loaded up with these two guys. It was Mark Spencer and another guy about like Buddy Heaton. His name was Roger Stockton. And Mark wasn't too far from Buddy himself, to be honest with you, when he got away from the house.
Yeah, he was no Mark Spencer himself.
Yeah, and that's one of the greatest educations I ever got, riding from Pawhuska, Oklahoma to Pecos, Texas with those two men. And we stopped at a little rodeo in Pond Creek, Oklahoma on the way. And I learned a lot at that little rodeo too, to be honest with you. It was just a great learning experience that I'll never forget. I don't want to get into it because we have some younger listeners.
When you got out of that, I bet when you got out of that truck, you felt like you just been drugged to the Calgary Stampede.
Yeah, it was definitely a learning experience. I just thought that's how everybody rodeoed at the end of the day. It was a good time.
That's funny.
It was a good time. At that Pond Creek rodeo, man, I learned some funny stuff, Jimbo. I have to tell you about it one of these days.
I can imagine.
That's funny.
Jess, you grew up around all them old steer ropers and stuff and heard those old timers talk about steer ropers and stuff. If you were making a Mount Rushmore of steer ropers, who would you put on it? Need 4 names.
Oh, boy.
And it's just your Mount Rushmore. It doesn't have to be a Mount Rushmore that everybody agrees with.
Yeah, just whatever you think.
Man, I don't know. Shoot, there were so many good ones. I don't know. You talking about in the old days?
Well, any of it. Just whatever you've seen personally or heard about or whatever. Just who do you think belongs on it?
Man, I don't know. Of course, Guy would be one for sure. Needs to be on there. No one's accomplished that.
No.
But I don't know. There were so many good hands. Honestly, couldn't really pick one out.
Well, you need 3 more. You pick Guy.
Yeah, Guy. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of catching me cold on that. Who do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of like you. There's so many, but I'd have to put Guy and Everett Shaw for starters, Schultz Webster, and then just argue.
Yeah, see, I never got to watch them rope much, so it's hard for me to really. Yeah, I know their history, but I've never seen them.
Right.
If I was going to put, I'd put Guy, of course, and Olin.
Yeah.
And I would probably put, he just passed, Gary Good's dad.
Charles
Good. Yeah.
Charles.
Yeah.
He used to come up there over. I used to watch him. We'd run those cattle through in the mornings, if that steer rope, and just show them the back end. And those guys would break loose and stuff from them. I watched that Charles Good one morning, and I'm talking about when he blowed up there and he would pop that whip. I mean, crack the whip off them horns. I told my dad, I said, wow. I said, I need a set of earplugs listening to that. And I mean, did it right. You know what I'm saying? Just blow up in there and really take an extra swing and heat it up. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Right.
And so, of course, his son was the same way. They were just that talented. But there's a lot of them. Them were all good horn ropers. Them guys were.
Yep.
But
the greatest roper to come out of their country, I believe, he mentioned him a while ago, is old Bobby Harris. He's a dang good roper. Won the Rookie of the Year when he's 15 years old. I don't think it's ever been.
Yeah, shit. No one handles the rope better than Bob Harris now.
Yeah, probably.
I mean,
probably nobody handles the rope.
I
as
don't
good as
even know
Bobby.
one that handles the rope better. No.
Maybe JD Yates.
Yeah, well, yeah, but
It'd be a good match to watch them two rope horns and feet.
That Bob Harris has the prettiest swing ever, in my opinion. So
such a great loop too. Good guy.
Yeah,
he's a good teacher too.
Friends.
Yeah, we did podcast him.
He's one of my oldest friends.
You know, a lot of people
I don't see Bobby much, but
haven't seen all our.
We grew up together.
Haven't heard all our podcasts, and you can go back through the library and find them. They're all out there.
Yeah,
I think 163 of them, Cody.
160 something podcasts, and
I remember he was on one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we highly encourage everybody because they're not relevant to today. They're relevant for yesterday, really, on most of them.
Right.
And it just tells the history and career of a lot of great cowboys and cowgirls. So.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot to learn, too, to be honest with you, from a lot of these guys.
Oh, right.
You know, there's a lot of tricks to the trade that they're the exact same way how you do it today is when they did it way back in the 50s or 60s. So.
Right.
So is Joe Schneider, is he still among us?
Yeah. I talk to him every once in a while, about every couple of weeks. He lives up in Kansas, doing pretty good.
I never knew Joe, but I remember he used to come up there. I mean, I kind of remembered him.
Yeah.
When he come up there to Ogallala to Dad's Ropings, but I don't ever remember shaking his hand or anything. How old a man would he be?
He's 84 now. He was born in, no, he'd be 85 now. He was born in 41, I believe.
One of two men left alive that made the first national final steer rope.
Yeah, there's just two guys left, Jess, that made the national final steer rope. Him and Howard Haythorn. The first national.
Yeah, Dad said the same thing about Joe. He said, "I'll tell you what, all he had to do to win something was just enter. All he had to do was just enter. He's going to win something."
Tough hand.
But, yeah, I was just too young. I just didn't know him. But
Jimbo,
he remembered you as a little kid. I asked him the other day. He said, "Yeah, I remember Jess. He was just a little kid when I was coming up there."
That would have been right.
Yep.
Yeah, that would have been right.
You know, he cracked back out roping when I was roping, Jimbo.
Yeah.
Your Uncle Joe.
I sold him my old horse when I quit.
Kind of a big, tall black horse you had? Okay.
Yeah,
and him and I won one of the same ropings. He won the senior open one day out at John Tall Chiefs, and I won the open roping one day out at John Tall Chiefs. Talk about a good day.
Yeah, that was.
Well, Jimbo, you got anything else for Jess?
Oh, just thank him for jumping on here with us. Hope we...
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a pleasure talking to y'all. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, well, we enjoyed having you on.
Really?
And I'm sure
it was great.
A lot of people enjoy taking a trip back to those old days, back in Nebraska and Wyoming, and some of those old stories. But that's cowboy country.
Yes, it is.
And let's everybody remember one of the greatest steer ropers to ever come out of Nebraska, Terry McGinley.
Yep.
And great horseman, great roper. Won the average at the national finals twice,
back to back.
Back to back. That's hard to do.
Back to back.
You know, it's just good to remember a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the kind words about Terry. It means a lot.
Yep, and he was a great friend of my dad's.
I wish he was able to be here to talk with y'all, but he's 90 years old now, and his old memory's getting shot. And we talk about some things, but he wouldn't be able to, you know what I'm saying, go into detail much.
Sure.
But he,
well, tell him we
he's
said
like
hi.
a loose tooth. He's hanging in there.
I sure remember him.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. I really do. So, well, you guys, I appreciate everything. Glad we got together.
All right, Jess. Thank you. Get up here and see us one of these days.
Okay. Sounds good. Talk to y'all later.
Bye-bye.
Ooh, that was a good one, Jimbo.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Hey, just want to remind everybody one more time, new podcasts come out on the first and third Thursday of every single month. First and third Thursday, there'll be a new podcast for y'all to listen to. We're backing off from the every Thursday to just the first and third Thursday every month, and we got some good ones lined out for y'all. Be listening. Well, Jimbo, good seeing you, man.
Good to see you, Cody. Catch you next time.
All right, don't forget our sponsors, the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum, Buck and Flamingo Turquoise Shop for all your fashion needs, and our new sponsor, Shorty's Cowboy Hattery. Call them up, have them make you a brand new hat. Best in the business right there.
I believe they are.
All right. Well, see y'all next week.
Later.